The moment I walked into the grand ballroom, I knew something was wrong. The chandeliers sparkled like 1,000 tiny stars overhead, but the energy was flat, muted laughter, polite applause, restrained smiles. My brother Nathan, the groom, stood at the head table beside his new wife, Lily, her white dress radiant under the lights. Guests milled around clusters of round tables draped in ivory linens, each place setting adorned with a cream-colored rose and a glossy menu. Yet, despite the beauty, I felt a pinch in my chest. I'd been relegated to the kitchen. My own company, Everlasting Events, had designed this very ballroom. I'd spent 6 months crafting the floral centerpieces, sourcing the silk draperies, curating the custom cocktail menu. I'd been there for every taste test, every vendor meeting, every crisis of color palettes gone awry, and here I was, stuck behind the scenes, perched on a wooden stool in the stainless steel cavern of the kitchen, invisible to the crowd I'd brought to life. "Can I get you anything, Miss Carter?" Chef Bruno called over the clatter of pots and pans, clearing his throat as he ladled a thick lobster bisque into porcelain bowls. I mustered a tight smile. "I'm fine, thank you." I glanced through the swinging doors into the ballroom, where the first course had just been served. My heart ached watching the guests' faces light up at the sight of the garnished shrimp cocktail. That presentation was my design. I'd agonized over the placement of microgreens, the drizzle of Meyer lemon vinaigrette, even the angle of the shrimp heads. The doors swung open again, and Lily's matron of honor, Claudia, swept in, her stilettos squeaking on the tile. She paused, lips twisting when she saw me. "Oh, it's just you," she said in that clipped tone. "I thought maybe you'd be out there mingling, or at least sitting at the head table." She brushed past me. "Don't let me keep you." Then she vanished as quickly as she'd appeared. I pressed my lips together. Not just invisible, actively sidelined. I'd known wedding planning was a messy business of alliances and jealousies, but this hurt worse because it was my brother's wedding. I loved Nathan fiercely, but somewhere in the weeks before, his mother, my formidable image-obsessed mother, had whispered doubts about my professionalism. "He needs stability, Nikki," she'd said, using my childhood nickname. "You're too flamboyant." His new wife wants simplicity. And just like that, they'd fired me, hired Lily's childhood friend Claudia's boutique planning firm, and offered me the purely symbolic role of, well, tea fetcher. I watched as a server tripped over a loose floor tile, sending a tray of amuse-bouche crashing. People gasped. I swallowed my indignation and sprang off the stool, rushing forward. "Let me," I said, grabbing an empty tray. I whisked down the service corridor, filled it with fresh bites, and moved through the ballroom like a ghost in a familiar dream. Guests parted, confusion flickering across their faces when they saw me, an unknown in an ivory gown, distributing plates with surgical precision. I returned to the kitchen, cheeks flushed. Chef Bruno glanced at me, half smile forming. "You've got the touch," he said. "That girl tripped over the floor guard on your watch." He nudged me gently. "Sounds like they need you out there more than in here." I exhaled. He was right. I'd made this wedding happen. Emily, Claudia's firm, might have the contract now, but they didn't have my brain. Earlier that morning, I'd watched Nathan and Lily exchange vows in a sunlit courtyard, vows I'd helped write. Nathan had tweaked his lines until they captured every quirk of Lily's laugh, every memory of their first road trip. Lily's vows, the ones about finding home in your heart, were my words on the page. I held back tears as they sealed the promise with a kiss. At the reception, I'd clapped and danced, until Lily's mother had intercepted me near the dessert table, whisking me away to the kitchen. "We need you here, dear," she said, with a patronizing pat. "So much to do, we couldn't possibly manage without you." It stung to be needed and dismissed in the same breath. Back in the kitchen, I surveyed the chaos, servers holding cold plates, cooks juggling orders, angry phone calls from vendors demanding clarification on last-minute changes. At the center of it all, I saw my opportunity. I grabbed a set of index cards and scrawled Master of Ceremonies, a role the newly hired MC had bungled. Then Table 7, gluten-free entree, and champagne toast queue. My heart raced as I scribbled notes: guest of honor intro, wedding party transitions, dad's speech order. I called Chef Bruno over. "Listen, I know their menu inside out. Let's run service like this: cold first, soup second, entree third, dessert at 8:30 sharp. Cue music for the cake cutting at 9. And when it's time for your chocolate petite fours, roll them out from station B, so servers don't back up. He blinked, then grinned. Nikki, you're a lifesaver. We set to work, me orchestrating from the kitchen. I handed out game day cards to head servers and bus tables when they fell behind. I heard my name slung like a curse in the ballroom floor manager's earpiece. Why's Carter back here? But I ignored it. The night was far from over, and I'd get my moment. At 8 p.m., the ballroom lights dimmed in preparation for the speeches. Guests murmured, glasses clinked, linen napkins shifted expectantly. The MC, an earnest but clueless man, took the microphone. He began with a droning introduction that lost the audience in his enunciation of "we're gathered here." I scanned my wristwatch. Cue card said, Dad's speech, 8:05. I grabbed the mic from the MC's startled hand. "Excuse me," I said, voice carrying across the hushed room. "I'm just going to call time on the speeches." Gasps rippled. A hush descended. My father and mother turned in their seats at the head table, as did Lily's parents. If looks could kill, I'd be a pile of ash on the floor. I raised my free hand, glancing at my index card. My father, John Carter, father of the groom, will now say a few words. I handed him the mic. He blinked, then rose, face creased with surprise and pride. He nodded at me, cleared his throat, and spoke. "Thank you, Nikki. Let me begin by saying how proud I am of my son Nathan, and now my daughter, Lily. You too." His words were heartfelt, weaving humor and warmth. Guests laughed at his quips about college antics and cheered at heartfelt toasts. I felt a thrill of vindication. I'd rescued the moment. After Dad sat, I returned the mic to the MC, who looked rattled but relieved to continue. I slipped back to the kitchen to catch my breath, and there, in the pass, stood Lily's mother, tears brimming in her eyes. "Thank you," she said. I didn't realize how much was out of control. She reached for my hand. "You saved the night." I nodded. "It's what I do." By 9:30, we stood before the head table for the champagne toast and cake cutting. The ballroom shimmered with candlelight and applause. I slipped in beside Nathan as he and Lily raised their flutes. Nathan caught my eye. His lips quirked in a private joke. "Thanks," he mouthed. I smiled, and he squeezed my arm. After the toast, the cake arrived, a 3-tiered masterpiece adorned with sugar orchids, and we gathered round. Lily's breath caught as her mother pushed the MC to the side. "Nikki," she said, "would you do the honors?" My heart thundered. I stepped forward, knife in hand, and cut the first slice as cameras flashed. The applause and cheers were deafening. In that moment, I felt the weight of being acknowledged, not as a secretary, nor a sideline sister, but as the architect of this celebration's success. But the night held one more surprise, a contract signature, buried in a corner of my mind until now. Weeks before, I'd learned that the venue's catering contract was up for renewal for a year's worth of corporate events for Whitlock and Pierce, Emily's planning firm. Claudia's crew had been lax in following up. I privately nudged our old contact, Marcus, the director of events at the Grand Gala Hotel, with a few friendly emails, reminding him of our prior success. Now, as the night wound down and guests drifted to the lounge floor, Marcus appeared at my side, a folder in hand. "Lily," he said, using my real first name, not Miss Carter. "I wanted to thank you personally." He smiled, extending the folder. "We'd love Everlasting Events to continue as our preferred caterer and event planner. We've prepared the contract for signature." I opened the folder. Inside was a neatly bound agreement, a 3-year retainer, annual minimums, volume discounts, nearly a $5 million deal in total. My breath caught. "Thank you," I said, voice thick. I signed the first page, then initialed each revision. Marcus watched, grinning. "I'm so glad to have you back in the fold," he said, shaking my hand. I looked around the half-empty ballroom, remnants of cake, glasses scattered, a few lingering guests. Then I thought of Claudia's firm, waiting for my sister-in-law's nod to send over their contract. They'd thought they'd stolen the gig, but the night's chaos had revealed their inexperience and my indispensability. Now my company's contract was reclaimed. My design would shape every event in that grand ballroom for years to come. I returned to my parents' table, placing the signed contract beside a half-melted cake slice. Nathan leaned in. "You did it," he whispered. I nodded. They tried to hide me in the kitchen, never counted on me reclaiming the room. Mia, my elegant sister, raised her glass. To you, Nikki, the real party maker. I laughed, raising my own glass. The surrounding whispers turned into toasts. To Nicola Carter, to everlasting events. You're the best planner ever. As glasses clinked and laughter carried into the night, I realized something profound. Being seated in the kitchen might feel like exile, but sometimes that's the vantage point you need to see the whole operation and to take it back. Because when you know every detail, every crisis point, every guest preference, you don't need a fancy head table. You just need conviction and the will to step out of the shadows and into the moment you were born to lead. I woke the next morning before dawn, the Grand Gala Hotel's ballroom still humming faintly in my mind, and with it the thrill of reclaiming control and my company's contract. Over coffee in my sunlit kitchen, I drafted an email to Emily at Caldwell Tech, thanking her again for her trust and offering Everlasting Events full support for their upcoming launch. Then I opened my calendar and began blocking time. Site visits, floral mock-ups, tasting panels, vendor negotiations. My world was back on track, brimming with possibility. But the real work lay in solidifying what had transpired the night before. I needed to celebrate the win with my team, shore up Marcus's enthusiasm at the Grand Gala, and prepare for my brother and sister-in-law's gratitude without making it about them. This was my achievement, my company's moment to shine. By mid-morning, I was at Everlasting's Midtown offices, a sleek loft space with exposed brick hanging Edison bulbs, and a communal chalkboard wall scribbled with event timelines. I found my senior planner, Jasmine, hunched over a laptop in our creative cave surrounded by fabric swatches and dried botanical specimens. Jazz, I said, closing the distance. Big news. Her eyes lit. The contract? I grinned. Signed. 3-year retainer for the Grand Gala Ballroom. I clicked send on the contract email and swiveled the screen toward her to show the delivered tick. She whooped, sending papers flying in excitement. Let's celebrate with champagne this afternoon. She sprang up, then noticed the disaster that could be unfolding next. Wait, do we have the team briefed? Vendor updates? New floor plan? I nodded. On my ride in, I updated the outline. We'll continue as lead planner, but we need to transition all inventory, update logistics docs, and refresh the client portal to reflect our new status as preferred event partner. I handed her a printed checklist. This goes to every department head by noon. She took it, already highlighting action items. I'm on it. You want me to draft that partner announcement? Perfect. Let's aim for a press release by end of day. I hugged her cheek. Thank you. Next, I headed downtown to the Grand Gala Hotel. In the sunlit lobby, I spotted Marcus at the concierge desk, welcoming a visiting social committee. He waved me over, sleek navy suit, an echo of my former exclusion, and I strode up open-armed. Marcus, I called, scanning for any staff who might ask why I was there. But everyone seemed more pleased than surprised. He greeted me with a robust handshake. Nicola, so good to see you. He guided me behind the desk, where a folder lay waiting. Your contract is on file. And I've already alerted our marketing team. Everlasting Events is now front and center for all our functions. I leaned closer. Amazing, thank you. My team will send you the brand guidelines and our event partner badge for your website. He laughed. I'll have my web designer update it this afternoon. Then he lowered his voice. Between us, Claudia's crew never followed up on last quarter's conference. They didn't even return my calls. You were the only one who showed diligence. And it showed last night. Everyone asked who saved the event. I felt a warm flush. I believe in follow-through. He nodded. Me too. That's why you're the one I trust. Riding back to the office, I reflected on my kitchen exile. If I hadn't been sidetracked into culling tray tables and managing spills, I might not have discovered the MC's looming disaster or preempted it. My behind-the-scenes vantage point became an asset. Exiled though I was, I'd seized the moment, stepping up when the designated planners floundered, reasserting my leadership without ego, simply by doing what needed doing. At 2 p.m., I held a sudden all-staff meeting. The entire Everlasting team gathered in the open loft, reclining on vintage couches or perching on stools. Jasmine stood by the big chalkboard, which now displayed the Grand Gala logo beside ours. I climbed onto the coffee table, smiling. Team, I began, voice strong. I have news. Everlasting Events is now the preferred exclusive event partner for the Grand Gala Hotel, under a 3-year contract valued at over $5 million. Gasps and cheers erupted. Hands slapped, Feet stomped, laughter bounced off the brick walls. I raised my hand for quiet. This is our collective win. Every floral arrangement, every guest itinerary, every logistical masterpiece you've crafted has led us here. Tonight, sip champagne on me. Tomorrow, let's get back to work, because one ballroom's just the beginning. They applauded again, then swarmed me with hugs and high fives. In that moment, I felt seen, not as the sister sidelined, not as the kitchen ghost, but as the CEO of my own destiny. That evening, I attended my brother's post-wedding brunch in the hotel's rooftop garden. Nathan and Lily greeted me with wide smiles. Lily slipped her hand in mine. I heard almost every guest called you a hero, she said. Thank you for saving the speeches, the cake, everything. I smiled. It was an eventful night. Nathan pulled me aside. Any hard feelings? I'm sorry they sat you in the kitchen. I shook my head. No. It turned out to be the best seat in the house. He laughed, relief flooding his face. I couldn't be prouder of you. You taught me that sometimes you step back to see the whole picture, and then you step forward to take control. I hugged him. Thank you. Back in the office late that afternoon, I updated our project tracker, Grand Gala contract, signed, implementation kickoff, Monday. I added subtasks, partner badge completed, press release drafted, client portal update scheduled. The red progress bars in the dashboard glowed like runways ready for takeoff. As I clicked save, I looked out across the team's desks. Jasmine sketching floral layouts, Melik fine-tuning linens, Phoebe testing the partner badges link. I realized how close I'd come to letting family politics define my career. I could have been swallowed by the kitchen shadows, but instead I reclaimed my company's place at the table, and in the process my own seat at the head of the room. Tomorrow, I'd brief a new team member on how to navigate corporate etiquette and backstage strategy, because every planner needs to know that the real magic happens when you anticipate problems, wield empathy, and never let a moment of invisibility blind you to the chance to shine. And as dusk fell outside, painting the skyline pink, I drafted a final note to my brother. Thank you for trusting me, Nate. Looking forward to planning your 10th anniversary celebration. I smiled at the thought of being back in the kitchen, this time as the honored guest, surveying the scene from every angle, ready to step forward once more when the moment called. Because in the world of events, and in life, the true power comes not from where you sit, but how you claim your role, wherever you are placed. And in that knowledge lies the art of making every day a celebration.